introduction of themselves, that'll be great. So today is the, what is it, the third or the fourth
23rd.
Hangout, is this?
Oh, the third Hangout. Yeah.
This is the third Hangout since we started doing the Hangouts early this year. Yeah, welcome everybody. Apologies for some of you guys who couldn't make it, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one. So I'm seeing some new faces here, so I think it'll be worth everybody just gives a 1-minute introduction about themselves so the others know who they are and how they're involved with OpenJDK and AdoptOpenJDK and everything else related. So who wants to start? George, you're probably the best person to start, no? Since you have the Duke logo on.
Oh, I've got great responsibility, yeah. Yes, so hi, I'm George. I'm an IBMer. I spend most of my time working on Node, but I'm also working on AdoptOpenJDK, primarily sort of dealing with infra and build stuff. I do help with a few other tasks, but that's generally my role.
Cool. Who wants to go next? Volker?
Yeah, fine. So I'm Volker Simonis. I'm working for SAP. We are working in the OpenJDK since a long time. We have contributed to PowerPC, AIX, and S390 ports. I'm not directly involved in the AdoptOpenJDK project until now. Besides that, I know some of you guys, and I'm also on some of the channels. Yeah, we are actually currently trying to at SAP to build something similar like AdoptOpenJDK. So we look what you're doing. We also want to do some OpenJDK builds. So that's why I'm interested what is happening in the AdoptOpenJDK project and see how we can join efforts maybe.
Cool. Yeah, maybe bring all your toys and play with us here at AdoptOpenJDK instead of playing separately at SAP, you know? It'll be more fun.
Sure. I mean, we don't have a lot until now, so we just started like in the last few weeks. And,
cool. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. So there, we hope we get a public Git repository soon and also have some Jenkins jobs. But yeah, it's very basic until now. And of course, we have looked at what you have done, and yeah, that's interesting. So we will see.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'll be the next to introduce myself. My name is Mani Sarkar, Java developer. I've been involved with the AdoptOpenJDK program nearly since its beginning. I would say this month marks my 4 years, if not 5 years of involvement. I've lost count actually. So I've been there since early days, and we've reinvented the wheel several times till now. This has been the best one where we actually have been able to build a lot of stuff for a lot of platforms and have consistency in script and everything, and a lot of help as well. So my involvement, I'm involved with the London Java community and also the other Jug communities worldwide. I primarily write code in Java on the JVM, but I also do other web stuff, and I spend quite a bit of time on OpenJDK these days, but it's on and off. And yeah, it's great to see there's so much happening on all the different repos that actually it's become more than one person's task. So that's where everybody else comes in. So a lot of contributions from some of you guys who are on the call today. So thanks for that. Anybody else wants to be the next person to it?
I will go.
Cool.
So hello, I am Yuri. I'm from Brno and I am part of the OpenJDK Red Hat team. And we already have really powerful OpenJDK builder, which we wanted to publish about half a year ago. But then suddenly AdoptOpenJDK started to do something. So I was trying to join you and hope to make this builder together so not everybody is inventing wheel again. So that's all.
Cool. Yeah, let's not reinvent the wheel. Bring your toys here to AdoptOpenJDK. Abdul, you want to be next?
Yep. I am Abdul Munir. I work for Oracle. I work in the JDK quality team with Rory mainly in the quality outreach program. So basically, we will work with the open source people, and mainly whatever the issue they found, that we will triage it and we will prioritize according to the priority and that kind of stuffs. Other than that, yeah, I run and publish the early access builds test results in the JDK java.net site, and yeah, same report I used to send in the quality mailing group. Yeah, that's all about me.
Cool. Thanks, Abdul.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to go next? Dino, maybe?
Yep. This is Dinakar. I work for IBM. I've been involved with the AdoptOpenJDK project for the last couple of months, looking to maintain the Docker images for the various binaries that are being produced. So there is the OpenJDK-Docker GitHub repo to which I'm contributing to. That's about it.
Thanks, Dino. We are enjoying your Docker contribution on the AdoptOpenJDK.
Thanks.
Yeah. Maybe Shelly, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Lambert, also at IBM, interested in improving the testing story at Adopt and making it easier to add new tests. Right now, you can likely see that we're using OpenJDK regression tests, and we have some system tests running, but we have a plan, or we hope to be able to bring whole suite of other tests and make it easy for any group to plunk new test material in, plug it in, and get it running. So while making sure that the builds, the execution time doesn't grow. So we're working on optimizing those Jenkins. But to mention one last thing is that I think currently we've only been sending a half to 0.75 of a person on this effort, and that person I see has joined the call as well. Hi, Sabina. I'll pass it over.
Okay, cool. I see Enrique. You could be next.
Yeah, sure. I'm also an IBMer. I mainly work on Swift, but I got involved in AdoptOpenJDK when I started IBM almost 3-4 months ago. I mainly took over Joe on the website, just updating the website, and also works on some build scripts with George.
Cool. Thanks for your efforts, Enrique. Who do we have left? We have Stuart, and I can't pronounce his name. Weifeng? Is that? Did I say it right? I mean, choose between the two, whoever wants to introduce themselves.
Let's go, Stuart.
Stuart, yeah. Stuart, can you hear us?
Should we try going to Sophia first?
Sure, yeah. Oh, he says his microphone. Go on.
Sophia is my thing, by the way.
George, you might have to introduce Stuart.
Okay. Yeah, I could probably introduce Stuart. I've worked with Stuart since starting at IBM, but yeah, I think Stuart's working in the testing team with Simon, partly with Shelley, I think. And again, it's a similar story to Shelley. I think they're just basically working to get the test case correct. They're working on the STF framework. And I think Stuart recently is spending quite a lot of time looking at, obviously, getting the JTK builds working and setting up some machines. I hope I did you justice.
Cool. Who's left? Looks like
Mani, Rory was trying to join, but he told because of it is telling the video call is full because we are
Yeah.
already 10, I think.
Yeah, we are maximum 10 people, and think, yeah, that was what we were discussing earlier. So maybe we might have to think of another way of doing this the next time over. I think I've heard of Zoom, but well, let's discuss it later in the call. I think it's Wai Feng, if I've got your name right.
Can
you introduce yourself?
Did you? So Sophia.
Okay, you know one is Sophia. Okay.
I'm also a IBMer. I work with Shirley. We're in the same team. So my main focus is to improve test. Yeah. So I want to, my main focus is to like improve our test framework, which can make all the tests to be easier to run and simple to run. I think that's all from me.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. So I hope you all have got the access to the Google Doc, which has got all the items of the agenda, because I'll be reading them out one by one, and then we'll have a quick chat about it. Hopefully we can finish it off in the next 20 to 30 minutes. If not, I'm going to share the link again on the channel. Just so that... Does everybody have the link to the... Now you have it. So I'm going to just go through the items. So this is a typical question. What are the next major milestones for the project? So I would think everybody will be able to share a little bit about it. Maybe George, you can start, and then Shelley, Sophia, Enrique, Dino, you can all chip in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to kick things off. So I mean, obviously the main exciting things that are happening now is, recently we've had a lot of large companies coming in, approaching us saying, we like what's going on here, and either want to get involved or help out with machines in some way. So obviously one of the next big tasks is we need to just keep driving the build farm, keep expanding it. We essentially have no limit as to the number of machines we can have. We can just keep building different variants and flavors, and try and support as many different Java versions as we can. In terms of obviously JCK, I think as of today, we now have the JCK 9 test framework. So obviously it's going to be one of our main priorities. And I think we're hoping that some of the Oracle guys that obviously have had a lot of experience with JCK will be able to help us, but we desperately want to get to a point where we have JCK tests on the release binaries, so we can then remove the banner from our website and start saying, you know what, we think these are good binaries, they should be good for you. So yeah, that's probably the main exciting thing. We want to get on with JCK and get the binaries to a point where we know that we're happy with them and we're able to say, yeah, go and fetch it and use it in production.
Yeah, these are JCK compliant, and we are confident about the binaries. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know if you think there's anything else I need to cover, Marnie. I'm sure there is. There's a lot of exciting things happening at the moment.
Yeah. So in terms of major milestone, I would think what you've covered pretty much all of it. One of the things is, I don't know how major it would be falling under, is documentation, and I think Martijn has put some points in this document which we'll cover, which as I read through. So the question here is, what's left of the JCK 8 to pass at least one platform? Who would be able to answer that? Who would know?
Sorry, I have a question to that. If the TCK will be running, and so the results will be published or not?
Oh, good question. I think Sophia and Shelley are the best people to answer here, I would think. What are we doing with the results of the...
So there is a TLDA agreement that is publishing the results. So I think we have to figure out what that agreement allows us to be able to do. At the moment, I think really what we're allowed to do is say pass or failed. And if failed, we can't actually even share the test output agreement. That is my understanding. So those tests are actually going to be run on a private, manner where the results aren't available through the Jenkins GUI. But I think it's something we could out a few more details of to see, are there extra things that we can do in order to share the failures at least with people so that they are able to address them more efficiently. That's my understanding. If other people have input.
I think that's true. I don't think you will be able to share any internals of the JCK tests. We are doing it since long time ago, and it's also our understanding of the license agreement that you're not allowed to share any details except with Oracle.
Yes,
you're even not allowed to share it with different.
That's right, but my point is that running TCK publicly without publishing the results, losing a sense a bit.
Yes, but I mean that's the problem of the license. I mean,
but now Oracle is supporting AdoptOpenJDK, so there should be some leverage on them.
I can only tell you how this works with commercial licenses. So as for our commercial SAP JVM,
yeah,
we have to submit every certification, the complete test results of every certification to Oracle, and Oracle then approves this certification, and only after Oracle has approved it, which means they have, or at least they can look at every single test and every test result, we can claim that it's certified. So for the OpenJDK, until now, I think there is no such process. Everybody just certifies and claims himself that he passed all the tests. But that's how it currently works.
Yeah, we can find out through Martin if the London Java community, which I think owns this, has any differences in versus a commercial one. But,
I think from what Martin explained to me, we are under those same policies. Obviously, I think from what we were currently working on, we basically had a Boolean value on our binary releases. So the idea was that once something had been approved JCK, we would then basically go and add like a verified JCK tick to the web page for each binary. Yes, as I say, I think that's the understanding that we currently have with Oracle, that we can't publish any results whatsoever. We are either JCK compliant or we are not JCK compliant.
Is the compliance, is it self-claimed, or is it Oracle says, okay, show us the results, and you can now, if you say yes, you can now claim it. If you say no, you can't. How's that working? You know?
For OpenJDK, I think it's self-claimed.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, I think.
But maybe I can say some words about the TCK. I'm not sure how familiar everybody on this call is with TCK. So I have the feeling that people think they can just run the TCK suite like the JTREC test suite automatically on Jenkins. So that's actually not the case. There is quite a lot of tests which can be run automatically, but there is also quite a bunch of tests which have to be run manually. And also the tests have to be run in different configurations in order to do a real certification. And even for very experienced engineers which are doing this since years in our department, it still takes them about 2 or 3 days to do a certification on a platform. Like, for example, 2 days to do it on Linux, 2 days to do it on Windows, and so on. So that's quite a complicated task. You can run about, I would say, 80 to 90% of the TCK tests automatically, but that's not a certification run. So the harness has special settings for a certification run, and then you have to run the tests in a special environment. You need not only the host on which you're running the tests, you need a special environment where you have other servers which have to be accessible, for example, by HTTP, by FTP, and so on. You have a special setup for network cards, and so on. And then there is the manual tests for AWT and Swing and so on, where you really have to look at the screen and then answer questions like, do you see a red bar, do you see a green square, and so on. And this is the hardest task. It takes about 4 to 5 hours at least, if you're not experienced. You also have to do some tests for printing, for example. You simply have to print some pages and then run to the printer and click on a button that you saw on the printed page, or this was written on the screen, and things like that. Of course, you could fool this test somehow, but if you really want to run it according to the specification, and there is, I think, a 200 or 300 pages manual about how to run the tests, then that's quite a lot of work. And as I say, if you didn't do it before, it takes probably several weeks to run this. I know, for example,
as you mentioned, the 90% can be automated are some of the work Stuart's been doing, but there are the interactive tests that clearly need manual intervention. So there's a thick wad of topic here just around testing at AdoptOpenJDK. I don't want to take the whole call on it, but we could.
I mean, it sounds
the short answer to the question was how to publish the test results in detail.
So I think it sounds to me like perhaps sometime on another call when when Stuart's got some machines going, we probably need to actually have a call where we go through with some of the people that have been running JCK for a long time, you know, the Oracle guys, Volker, etc., and actually try and work out and draft a plan of exactly what is required to do this.
I think that's a very good recommendation, because this is a topic on its own, and especially Volker has opened up a lot of Pandora's boxes for us to explore for the OpenJDK, because he's been doing this, and I'm sure the Red Hat folks, Iri has also good enough experience in, and Abdul as well, who can all join forces and help us with that. So this is a point in the agenda. I'm also making some notes, and I'll share it with you guys. I think the next thing I would like to pick up is we've all been working on the build farm, and we are quite familiar with it, but there'll be newbies who might not be. So I think Martijn's next suggestion, which he's also put as an action point, that he's going to work on documentation and try to place it in READMEs all across the Adopt repos. So in the coming days, if you guys also can gather some stuff and create pull requests and update that, so it'll help our work of making things clear on how to use it, because there's going to be new people joining in, as George mentioned. He's also proposing a Kanban-like workflow for picking up issues and doing tasks and things like that. So I think, I would think in the near future we might even have a Trello board coming up, but I'm not going to name technologies here. He's made an action point for himself for doing the contributing MD file and also take this task himself. Triaging issues. Yeah, we've got repos that have got 50 open issues as well. So again, there's something we need to also start working through. Others, as he mentioned, issues tend to rot, and I do know that we're all guilty of it. We're so busy with so many things that the issues we've opened, sometimes we may not be able to address it. So yeah, there's a couple of the other things, more IAS hosts required, but from what I hear from you, George, that we've got people coming in from different companies who are happy to provide with infrastructure. Is that right?
So I think that's my understanding. Hopefully, you know, if we can bring in some more infrastructure, obviously from the call we had with the Red Hat guys the other night, I think that was certainly part of the outcome, that they wanted to try and bring over some of what they were doing and bring some machines with them. Yeah,
that'll be great.
I think on another route, we're also, now that we're building OpenJ9 for JDK and JDK9, we're going to go back to IBM and say, is there anything else that we can possibly bring in? So yeah, I mean, for now, it's kind of a case of we just need to work out exactly what we need, what we're going to support, what we're going to build. I know we're having talks with the Amazon guys at the moment about exactly what they could do to help us with the efforts. I know we're looking at a reasonably healthy number of machines from them. So obviously we need to work out where we need them, what platforms we need, etc.
That'll be great. That'll be great. I think that brings to something else I meant to raise a Git issue on is we are covering quite a lot of platforms, but we don't have like a checklist of all the platforms and all the operating systems that we want to cover and have covered as an issue, and then keep ticking them off, because there are operating systems that we still don't do. Like, for example, there are a couple on the Windows side. Then Red Hat's, what is it, the Atomic Host. So we don't build on those, or at least run our tests on those. And it would be great to do that, because Java is going to be running on all these other hosts as well. So I would think when we have a full list of platforms and operating systems, and pick the ones which we've already done and the ones we will do, and maybe strike off the ones we won't do, might help. And I'll take this initiative and start it myself, and everybody else can jump in. There's also the different variants as well, because there's a lot of different people working on OpenJDK, plus OpenJDK projects that are post Java 9, Java 10 projects, and the ones that have not made into Java 9 or Java 10 because they're separate projects. So those can also be built on our farm, I'm thinking. And again, they most probably will use the existing infrastructure, but they could also use other types of infrastructure. I think the last time you mentioned something about Android or Raspberry Pis, is that right, George?
Yeah, there's definitely talk of trying to get some Android builds working. How we go about doing that, we'll have to have a play, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in doing. I know the Node.js community is slowly looking at Android builds and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, if we could look at getting that working, I mean, to me, there's a huge backlog of requests that people want from us for machines. But just so that everyone knows, that the basic way to go and get machines right now is if you go to the OpenJDK infrastructure repo, and you basically just go ahead and request machines from there. So if you need a couple of Linux machines to run some tests, just go in and ask for some, and then I can obviously try and route you through to the right place and find you some. I can't. We obviously have a lot of people wanting a lot of machines, so I can only do what I can do. But yes, we can't work out exactly what we need unless people come forward and say, I need 6 machines for this.
Yeah, a quick question about machine usage. Do we know if there are machines that are idle at times? If they are, should we be considering having machines be able to build and test, and then when they're idle, the test jobs get to run on them?
There is that possibility. I think the thing that upset us about that, anyway, I don't know whether it's really a problem, but what we didn't really want to be doing is running Java tests on a machine with a load of build dependencies. I don't know whether you really think that's an issue. Perhaps some of the people that have been doing this for a long time might know whether that's a real problem. I know the Node community is very careful about that. Whether we should be the same, I'm not sure.
Actually, that's a very valid point. But again, I'm not the master in this area. Do we have like a set criteria for where we are testing our stuff? I know we do have a criteria for where we are building it, and that we know from looking at the Ansible scripts, because the Ansible scripts create those machines. So I'm assuming that the same applies for tests.
We have the same in the Ansible scripts, the additional dependencies that are needed for test. There aren't many more.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the first step would be I'll take a look at the machine utilization, because maybe this is a moot point if the machines are always cycling with builds anyway.
Yes, that's it.
Our current blocker is that we can't turn some of the testing on some of the platforms because we have 0 machines. It does test for certain platforms.
I see. I would think that for that case, we might need to create machines for tests that only are used by test, because you want to, when you do your test, you're going to clean up the machine and start your test, right? Because if you reuse the build machines, they might not be from 0, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
And your tests might fail unnecessarily because of some artifacts from previous builds. But again, I'm not too clear about what the resource availabilities are, and George is the best person there. But that would be my comment on it.
Yeah, so we can take an action out of this just to take a look at the list and what needs to happen, make an actual.
Sure. So your request is you want test machines and you want to reuse build machines.
I don't care to reuse build machines. I'm asking if that if we can't get new test machines, maybe we should look at utilization of all machines and make sure none are sitting idle, and think about. So I'm assuming we don't have new machines coming, but based on the agenda item that says we might, this doesn't have to leverage machines for both build and test. Although I mean, that's how we do it internally. Anyway, I'll put a point in the notes here and take an action to.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's something to discuss between some of the people who can action them, like George and Martijn and Tim, on what we want to do about idle time of machines. So there's something about working group. I'm not quite clear what he means by that. He wants a cross-discipline group to put together something for more traceability and version numbering. So this has been a discussion, I think, in the past.
I'm happy to briefly talk about that if you like.
Oh, cool. Yeah, go ahead. Because I'm not sure about that myself.
I think my understanding, and I mean, to be fair, we know obviously it's probably a similar story for the guys at SAP and stuff. But when we are pulling down the Mercurial repos, there's a load of other sort of tags that we're pulling down that aren't necessarily the right tag. And so obviously when we hit the GitHub repo, we are just fetching the latest tag and building it. And from what I understand in my limited understanding of it, that is not necessarily the right tag. So I think we're kind of partly trying to work out whether this is really our problem or whether it's something that upstream should be changed in the Mercurial repos. It seems slightly odd to release a tag before it's made a release, but that might be my, I don't know.
So who says that it's right and wrong, and how are they determining that? I think that would be a good place to start, isn't it?
I think we are determining it from what Oracle is using, but it's basically a case of saying, I think there's JDK 8152 stuff, and then there's 144, and then there's some other tags, and I think basically we're meant to be on 152. I think, I don't know. But basically, the order of the tags isn't necessarily right. There's ones that are up there that haven't officially been released.
I get it. So it'll probably be a good way for us to find out from Oracle, unless there's some script way to find out that queries the repos and says, what's the right tag? And it always comes back with the right tag.
May I jump in?
Sure.
It will be longer talk. I think that flattening the Mercurial repos to single GitHub repo is one big mistake, but I understand why it's right now done as it is now. Anyway, what I am doing in Red Hat is that we are having pure Mercurial clones, that means the forest. And we are not pulling daily, we are pulling, let's say, weekly. So sometimes more tags appear during the night, and there are the forks, the branch, no, not the branches, but the merges. And when you see the graph of the Mercurial branches and merges, it's not straightforward. So every pool actually means several source tarballs. Each is based on a different line in the graph, in a different merge. And I found that it's probably the only correct thing to do. That really in a single pool, you have several released OpenJDK or several release candidates, each from a tag and the tip of its line in the graph. That's just a hint from me.
Would there be any way, because it looks like Mercurial and Git are using similar concepts and technologies, if I'm right, would there be any way to bring the Git repos in alignment with, I know you're saying Mercurial is not the right way to go, but just to get our build farms working and picking the right tags or the right tips, is there any way for us to at least bring down the right tips by inquiring?
Yes. It's you cannot query Mercurial, as far as I know. I have actually a Python program which has about 1,000 lines, which is determining that.
Okay, is that something we can still use before we clone the repo? Because George has got a script that converts the Mercurial repo into the Git repo. So maybe in that script he could call the Python program that queries the Mercurial repo, or at least downloads it and then does something.
Maybe it can be done. But in longer term, I would like to provide hardware, I mean the real hardware machine, where you will be able to have the direct Mercurial clones without the need of converting them to the Git and without the need to have them on a GitHub, which I consider really unstraightforward and confusing.
Okay, so this is again another discussion
Yes.
with the bigger heads. I wouldn't get myself involved in it and get shot. So
Yeah, sure.
I think the big minds can talk about this.
Anyway, that program, I will give it to you. Please write me email about it to remind me, and feel free to run it on any Mercurial forest you are converting to the Git forest. Maybe it will be useful for you.
I'll do that, and I'll pass it on to you, George, and then we can put it into our HG scripts and see where it gets us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does that work for you, George? Is that something we can
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, basically, what I just want to see is I just want to see how the other projects are currently handling this. I know that we all agree in a sense that materials kind of painful and slow, but I kind of like the way that we could possibly just store the material on a machine. That would be nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably a chat that we need to have with a whole bunch of people and try and crack down a solution.
So Yuri, are you saying you're also bringing us the hardware that will help us?
I wish to. It's a little bit longer. I'm already requesting it on the Red Hat managers.
Oh, perfect.
I really would like to provide a hardware which will be providing the direct Mercurial repos and maybe some storage for the builds, but that's really another discussion.
Absolutely, great. I just had another point, and maybe it might be the right suggestion is, Bitbucket does allow hosting Mercurial repos, and then you can talk to the Mercurial repos using Git commands. If I understood it right, is it worth trying to host it there?
You were missing in one of my discussions with other people about OpenJDK, where I was trying to force an idea that how Jenkins is storing the artifacts is terrible. So we, in our internal builder, have a special storage for the source snapshots and for the builds from those source snapshots. They are nicely in one place. It's easily queryable about the builds. And I would like to provide the hardware even for this, because we have the storage implemented, even the connection with the Jenkins. So it may work, but it's longer run.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, thanks, Yuri, for your input. I will chase you up on all of these. I've made notes here, and whenever it happens, we'll just execute it then, because I understand all of these need approval and comes down from higher ups. Okay, so we have a whole list of the rest of the item is just a whole list of Git repos that we have over here. And the first thing my eyes go on the OpenJDK Docker repo, and that reminds me, Dino was mentioning something about reaching out to get some more help and assistance from everybody else to help his Docker thing that he's working on. Dino, do you want to speak a little bit about it so that some of the other people here can also participate and maybe contribute?
Yep. So primarily, I think, so can you hear me?
Yeah, you're clearer now.
Okay. So primarily, I think we need a Jenkins job that builds the images and pushes it out to hub.docker.com/AdoptOpenJDK.
Yeah.
I think that George was setting up Docker on all these machines. So what the latest patch that I have, it has multi-arch support. So what needs to happen there is that we need to build images on each of the supported architectures, like ARM, PBC64, LES, 390X, x86-64. And then individually push those images from those machines to hub.docker.com. And then we need to add manifest lists that allows you to pull from a single tag, irrespective of which particular architecture you are on. So that's the part that is still pending. And I believe that George is working on to try and get a Jenkins job going on that. So I'm not sure where we are on that.
Okay. George, you might want to give us an update on that if you have one.
Yes, I mean, I've got a basic but it's basically an hour of, it's a bit of echo. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a Jenkins job. Basically, what I've got to try and do now is get Docker installed on the S390 and PPC machines. So I think the way we kind of left it last time was, pardon me, we had the Jenkins job building just Linux, and it was pushing up the manifest. And obviously, we then need to go and add the other platforms to the build flow. Essentially, I wanted to try and just create a single pipeline that was able to do the whole lot. Yeah, that's where I am. I need to just go back when I've got a bit of time. Actually, I'll put it on my backlog of things to do and get Docker on the other platforms.
Okay, perfect. So, George is your man, and you guys, do you need some extra help as well? Because I did see your message on the channel asking for, if I read it right, you were looking for a little bit more help from outside as well.
No, that is essentially it. So I think that given that now we are pushing out Java 8 images as well, there would be, I believe, more people looking for Docker images that are already pre-built, and it would be easy for folks to start working on that rather than having to build those images themselves.
Sure.
So the earlier that we can get this out there, it'd be better.
Sounds good. I do remember from, I don't know which meet it was, one of the calls early this year, that we did create a Google Doc with a watch list of targeted architectures and platforms that we want to create Docker images for. And I'm not sure if you're maintaining that somewhere. You did mention about your 4 architectures. I don't know how many architectures you're covering, but that's a more specific question. I'll take with you offline, and I'll do want to pick up on.
Yeah, I think currently, it is the 3 of them: x86-64, PIP64LE, and S390X.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that Hotspot is also building on Arch, so which is not there on OpenJ9. But I mean, the way that I have the scripts right now, I just look at the supported architectures and be able to build the images on those. So right now, for example, the OpenJDK hotspot manifest supports all of the 4 architectures, and the OpenJ9 one supports only the 3 of them. So I believe that the Docker command itself does not support ARM, and so that one would be missing from the multi-arch support. You would need to manually download it using the specific tag as available on hub.docker.com. However, for the other ones, you should be able to use the multi-arch tags.
I see. Okay, so I mean, whatever you've done so far is great effort. Let's see this in Docker Hub soon, and then we can take it from there. I mean, that's quite a lot of work to get all of those platforms working. So and Docker is not an easy beast sometimes, so that I can understand.
Yeah, I think that I mean, the primary issue here is that on PP64LE and S390X, I don't think that we can use the distro provided Docker, and I think that that's where probably George is running into issues as well, in the sense that it would be easy. I mean, some of them in fact require you to download tarballs and install Docker manually because the distro support is not so great, and so it would require some effort to actually maintain Docker on those platforms, like for example PP64LE, and I'm not so sure about S390X, but so you need to do a little bit of manual effort in trying to maintain the Docker versions that are running on that and making sure that they're up to date and so on. Of course, for x86-64, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, there are a bunch of other repos here. I'm not sure if anybody wants to talk about any issues with any of these repos or any comments about them, or if you're aware of any of these or not aware of it. I mean, we've got another 5 minutes to go. Maybe another question or something that you want to talk about. So what Martijn's done is he's put together a whole series of backlogs. If you click on any of those repos, you can see there's a backlog, there's a list of to-do items, the QA items, and so that's his Trello board I see. So I don't think he's going to be using Trello. He's going to be using GitHub's project management system. So if any one of you notice anything here that you want to talk about or bring to notice.
I just wanted to mention one of the actions out of a call last week with Oracle folks that are now joined was we were going to have a side meeting to go through the test issues, JT reg failures that we have, just to make sure, one, if they don't expect to see those, if they can help us work through why we're seeing those. Is it a machine config issue or something else? Likely have a separate get together to go through some of the issues in the OpenJDK tests repo.
So you're looking for another meeting with them so you can
it was suggested by Martin
okay.
After that call, so I think we should try to organize it.
Sure. I mean Abdul is here from Oracle.
Yeah, in the Slack
channel. Yeah, actually, I just browsed through our OpenJDK test repo and the bugs which we already have. I think right now about 54 open issues are there. So I was going through the one by one from the starting, and then I felt to some that logs which we are capturing in the bug, it is very less. If we can capture more logs, something like in the JTR, I don't know, from JTR files only, I think we are capturing the logs. And if we can include full JTR, if we have any confidential information, we can wipe out. And if we include full JTR files there, it will be great. And then, yeah, I started with pardon?
Go ahead.
Yeah, then I started with I already looked into some initial 10 bugs, and out of that I can see some of them it is like non-issue, or it is already there, the bugs corresponding to that in JBS and like that. And then another thing which I felt is if we can have some, can you give some small introduction that how we are raising the bugs? If it is something like if you see first time itself, if one failure you will raise it, or if it is something like 2 or 3 times it is constantly failing, then you are raising, or how is it?
Well, the goal is to keep everything green so we can see happening. Obviously, that means we also don't want to be excluding tests, but at the moment we have some tests excluded. So what I'd like to do, maybe as a side, we can start this conversation in the testing channel, is to get rid of any of the failures we're having due to machine config problems and that kind of stuff. Just with the set that you expect to see of failures that you know or you expect to see, and then we can work on those fixes, which wouldn't be test issues, they would be issues.
What I would suggest is, Abdul, you have access to the report results that Shelley's team is producing, right? Is that what you went through? If you could feedback, was it on GitHub or where did you see those results?
In the GitHub only, yes.
Yeah, if you could then comment on them and put on, for every one of those things, you can just highlight what you think, whether it's good, not good. There's a question, doubtful, and all kinds of those.
Where you need more info, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
We'll make sure we're archiving the JTR files and including those for download off the Jenkins build.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So if you feedback, Abdul, on those things, like, some places you said, okay, logs are not sufficient, or this shouldn't happen, or this happens, and all those things that you feel, whichever way you feel about it, then that feedback could be picked up by the team and they can action it. So that's a good feedback about, okay, the logs are not sufficient. So I can understand. Then there might be a difficulty in getting the logs, and that's another action point. But at least the team knows that that information is not good enough to come up with a suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah. For some of them it is enough, and some of them it is requires more information. And yeah, I think Shirley was telling the JTR file is archived somewhere, right?
Yeah, I believe it
Okay.
is, but if it's not, we'll archive it. Yep. So I'll continue to talk. You're on the Slack channel, are you?
Yes, in the test Slack channel. Yeah, I'm done. Okay, we
Yeah.
can start.
I'll meet you there.
Yeah,
Great.
I suggest you make your initial observations on the GitHub issue itself, and then of course the details you can discuss on the Slack channel, because that way there'll be record of, like, for this group of tests you need logs, for these group of tests you need JTR files and all those things. So
sure.
Yeah. All right, I think we are 1 minute over. I mean, anybody who wishes to hang on further can do, but I'm sure you all have your day jobs to look into. But thank you very much again for joining us and putting your time aside, canceling other meetings, and you know, working through all odds. Like some people's emails didn't work. So thank you very much. Shelley, I did notice you were making some notes. I'm happy to share some of the notes I've made. Is that right?
Yeah, I wasn't taking minutes, but I was adding any actions that I would take. So if you have stuff, just override whatever. I assume Martin usually takes minutes, so we can make sure those are published and shared.
I just took some notes here, and I'll share it with Martijn, and we'll iron it out. But if you have anything that you want to share in the minutes itself, please just drop in an email or on Slack or something for us, and I'll just add it to the document. I know we cannot talk about everything in this meeting, but a lot of stuff we can get offline and paste it in the meeting, so we can either make them into action points for next time or discussion points for next time. All right, thank you very much. That brings us to the conclusion of the third Hangout session. And hopefully we'll organize another one. Is this every 2 weeks, George, or is it every week? What has been planned?
I think it's been pretty fun. I think the idea is it'll be every 2 weeks, but every week if we ever need
I see.
to have a call.
Okay. Well, I'll try to make it as many times I can. I hope the same for everybody. I know some people might be able to make it, not make it. Just keep following up on the Slack channels and the Google documents we share with you.
Yeah.
And anything else? Anything else if you have missed? Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry, was this now every 2 weeks or every week? I didn't got it.
I think the idea is for now it's going to be every 2 weeks, but there's a possibility, especially, we might be able to slot in things like if we need to have that JCK call, that would go in the alternating week. I think that's my understanding anyway.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that's good. Good to know. I was of the same idea that it's going to be every 2 weeks. Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a nice day, rest of the day, and speak to you all soon, either 2 weeks from now and when it's weekly, maybe a week from now.
Yes, thanks for organizing and bye.
No worries. Thanks for all your feedback. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.